Jeremy Wade has caught some absolute monsters. Wells catfish, red-bellied piranhas, alligator gar, each of them deadly when provoked. This one is no exception. Said to have been around since the Cretaceous period, it's the largest fish in the Amazon River. The locals call it pirarucu, meaning firefish. The arapaima. I'm Jeremy Earfuel, fisherman and adventurer. You know what? That's enough. I'm going to add the arapaima to Minecraft.
Mentally and physically prepared.
Let's roll. Day 1. I added the man to the Forge Entity Types registry in IntelliJ. A simple task, but a crucial one. Next, I began work on the model. Arapaima can reach 3 meters in length, so I made 3 cuboids. One for the head, one for the body, and I've forgotten what the third one was for. The tail or something, it doesn't matter. As usual, Jeremy hadn't told me what the height and width were, so I calculated some ratios and made some educated guesses. This looks about right. Slightly longer than 3 meters, but it's fine. I had some trouble when figuring out how far apart the fins should be, but I moved some stuff around and it looked presentable. Model done. Took way less time than I expected. The texture came next. Now, in the past, I've often struggled when making textures because I want the fish to look realistic. But this time, I went in without any delusions. All I did was try my best to make the man look like he did in the reference image. A bit of reworking after the first draft, and some modifications regarding the eyes, and that was that. And you know what? He looked fantastic. Not an exaggeration by any means. Texture complete. Now it's time for a story. A couple of months ago, I began work on my second River Monsters video. The monster in question? The alligator gar. A truly vile beast. I added it to the game, and it was deadly. This man, he was a force of nature. But before I could begin work on my video, my computer's SSD, or solid state drive, decided that its time had come. I lost all of my footage. Everything I had recorded, gone. All because my storage drive lost the will to live. And so I couldn't make a video on the alligator gar. No episode 2 for series 1. Wait a second. How is any of this relevant to the arapaima? Okay, let's move on. I summoned the arapaima in game, and it came. And there were no issues. Usually there's something wrong with the texture or model when I first try to summon an entity. Not this time. However, every single river monster in the game also showed up for some reason. And of course, I died shortly after. Got swarmed by a bunch of piranhas, a couple of gar, and a massive catfish. In addition to the arapaima, obviously. I decided not to do the animations just then, primarily because I wanted to put more effort into them this time. That didn't exactly happen, as you'll see later. Anyway, I started setting some of the core attributes. For the health, I settled on 32.5 hearts. Now you might be wondering, how did I get that figure? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, I gave the Wells catfish, which has a maximum weight of 200 pounds, 13.6 hearts. The arapaima has a maximum mass of 475 pounds, roughly speaking. 475 divided by 200 multiplied by 13.6 is about 32.5. Simple. According to Jeremy, the arapaima is an ambush predator.
Speed over a short distance.
So I gave it an extremely slow base speed and a high chase speed. Yeah, when this man's coming behind you, don't look back. You ever heard of Max Verstappen? I've always thought that he drives like an arapaima that's in pursuit of prey. What? I've never thought that. I'm going off track. Attack damage. You can't really calculate that. Jeremy did say that getting hit by one in the chest felt like a truck or something. I think it was a truck. So we'll say anywhere from 4 to 7 hearts. I don't know. Took me some time to set it up, defining a random number in Java between 0 and 3 inclusive, or 0 and 6 inclusive, then adding that to 4 or 8. You know what, forget it. It works. I should mention that unlike other river monsters, Arapaima attacks don't make you bleed, because instead of biting you, they're smacking you with their tail, or coming at you like a ruddy torpedo. Anyway, after all that was done, I added Arapaima meat to the game. Separate raw and cooked versions, naturally. I think I made the cooked Arapaima meat's texture white. Isn't all fish meat white when cooked? I'll tell you one that definitely has white meat when cooked. Barramundi. With the completion of the meat items, day 1 drew to a close. You know, there's no way I did all of this in one day. Unless I was traveling at the speed of light and my clock was stationary, as per Einstein's law of special relativity. Or was it general relativity? Either way, day 2, I created a new damage type for the Arapaima, which basically means that if a player is slain by one, there'll be a special death message. But I couldn't pinpoint exactly what I wanted it to say. Player X was torpedoed by an Arapaima crashed into Player X, Player X was smacked by an Arapaima. It was then that I had my eureka moment. Player X was battered by an Arapaima. On second thoughts, it should have been battered to death by an Arapaima, but it's too late to do anything about it now. I already uploaded the modification to the archives. Fueled is the name of the project, if I remember correctly. With that side quest complete, it was time to create a spawning mechanism. Didn't take long at all. The exact same code as the other monsters' spawning mechanisms, but a much lower population density. Why, you may ask? Well, because of overfishing. The code looked fine, but the Arapaima weren't spawning in-game, and I had absolutely no idea why. I was a fool. Mobs don't spawn in spectator mode. I switched to creative and soon found an Arapaima. The problem? It was eating another Arapaima. But I knew why that was happening. See, when I made the Java class for the Arapaima, I copied over all of the catfish code. Wells catfish, as you know, are cannibals. So it was obviously some remnant of that Juggernaut's code that was causing the cannibalistic behavior of the Arapaima. I soon fixed that. Next, I made a breathing mechanic. It's the same as the dolphins, so it didn't take too much effort. I did have to make some changes to the speed though. The man was going turbo mode when taking a breath, and with that, the respiratory side of the Arapaima was complete. And you know the best part? You can see it breathe, just like in real life. You know how I said I wanted to put more effort into the animations? Well, I only made one. A swimming animation. I did put a fair bit of effort into it, so well done, future Aerofuel. Or the Aerofuel that my past self saw as the future self, something like that. Obviously, when testing, it initially looked terrible, but you know why? Because I was using the Ruddy Gars animation for Arapaima. IQ off the charts. And I carried over that high IQ into the next feature I added, Scale Armor. Arapaima have these massive scales, which honestly look like they can make great armor, so I created the Arapaima scale Cuirass, fancy term for a chest plate. More protection than netherite, which shouldn't exist anyway, but Jeremy said the armor would be decent. Decent means average, so I gave the Cuirass the same durability as leather to balance things out. You're wearing the scales of a fish. They're going to fall off pretty soon, even if they don't break. Knockback resistance through the roof, though I don't exactly know why. And the same enchantability as gold. Arapaima scales, man. Legends tell of a legendary fish, which had scales that were the stuff of legend. It's mythical stuff. Anyway, that's all for day 2. Day 3. You know how Jeremy said the Arapaima live in the Amazon River? That instantly got me thinking of a certain structure in Minecraft. Jungle temples. So I decided to add the cuirass to the chests that spawn in these temples. But I had no idea how to do so. Luckily, I found a tutorial online which explained how to go about it pretty well. I think I gave the armor a 0.75 chance of spawning in chests. Jungle temples are fairly rare. According to my notes when all that was done, it seems like I wanted to add some reference to dinosaurs. It turns out that Arapaima have been around since the Cretaceous period, which was about 65 million years ago. No, 66 million years ago. So I wanted to reference that in some way, shape or form. I chose to use an advancement. If you take out an Arapaima, the advancement you get is called Order 66. Wait, what? Not Order 66, Route 66. Route 66. So I implemented the code for that particular feature. Day 4. Once again, time works strangely, to say the least. On some days, I managed to do an insane amount of work, and on other days, not nearly as much. Somebody said in the River Monsters episode that Arapaima are difficult to see in the water because of the murkiness. So I thought to myself, what if I made the gar invisible to the player unless they're only 3 blocks apart, or less? And so that's what I did. It worked pretty well, as a matter of fact. I did try and make it so that the invisibility effect only occurred 50% of the time, but that looked weird. For the ideal experience, one should play with shaders and the default brightness setting. Also, when the fish comes up to breathe, you can still see it. Why? Because it's near the surface where the water isn't as murky, or something along those lines. Nearing the end now, but the best part is yet to come. Arapaima can apparently knock people out of their boats, which is kind of wild once you think about it. I had to add this feature to the game. So I got to work. I first tried to destroy the boat itself, but that caused the game to crash. So after some testing, I abandoned that approach. Then I tried to come at the problem from a different angle. Don't kill the boat, eject the passenger. Success! Not entirely though. You see, I was getting out of the boat, but I was still standing on top of it. So I searched Minecraft's code for something knockback related, some entity that knocks the player back. And then I found it. The Ravager. I took that man's code, threw it into the Arapaima class, and bingo. The mechanic was working flawlessly. This might be one of the greatest feats in human history. Moving on from that, it was time for the last game mechanic, bubbles. When the Arapaima comes up to breathe, it'll release bubbles from its mouth, making it easier for the player to identify where it is. I'm not entirely sure this is Jeremy verified, but you know what, it's fine. The man's already invisible. Actually, come to think of it, I did end up adding one more feature to the game. See, when the Arapaima is unaware of the presence of humans, when it comes up to breathe, it does so in a calm way. Gentle ripple and all that. But if it's spooked, it surfaces with a bit more animation. A simple addition, but a necessary one. And there you have it. After 4 days of blood, toil, tears, and sweat, the mighty Arapaima, a demon of the ancient world. This foe is beyond any of us. Run!